Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Welcome again to Whiskey Congress. Again, we are reviewing a new whiskey. We are together in studio after taking the Thanksgiving weekend off, or week off.
Yep.
So let's start with a whiskey, man. This is Angel's Envy Kentucky Straight Bourbon, finished in port wine barrels. Mm-hmm. It comes in at 43.3%, so 86.6 proof. A lot of flavor. I like it a lot. It's smooth. It doesn't have the huge ABV, but I give it a 93 because the caramel flavor and the smoothness just really win me over. It's a lot of caramel, and there's a little bit of other notes in there behind it, but it's really, really solid. Your thoughts?
So Angel's Envy is a bourbon that has grown in popularity exponentially over the last, I would say, 18 months. And for, depending on what you're drinking, for good reason or for, average reasons. My personal opinion, this is a slightly above average whiskey. It's relatively young. You can taste it. It does have good flavor, fruity, the vanilla, the maple, you're picking the caramel up, and it's not bad. And for the price, it's about a $50 bottle.
Yeah, I think that's what I paid for it.
I mean, I think it's starting to creep up there. Every time I go in the store, I feel like they tack on an additional $5 because it's become so popular.
Okay.
But it's good. It's if someone offered this to me at their house, or if you asked for it at my house, I would definitely say, okay, you're a bourbon drinker. Now, what I will say is part of my issue is that I have the rye at home.
All right.
And we are going to have to review it. And
right.
I feel like once you taste that and you taste this, you'll understand my conundrum here.
Okay.
Without saying too much more, but it gives something people to look forward to in the world of whiskey.
World of risky.
The world of risky whiskey. But
so what did you score it at?
So I'm going to give it a 90.
All right.
And I think it's
which is a very solid score.
Good score. Like I said, it's a solid whiskey. There's nothing wrong with it. You see it in a bar, order it. Be careful ordering it though. They may, it may be one of those that they jack the price up on just because of the popularity. But I think in terms of bourbons, in terms of bourbons that are readily available at around the same price point, there are definitely a few others that I would probably rank a little bit higher based on flavor. And part of it is age. Angel Envy is not aged very long. I don't believe it has an age statement on it, but I doubt that it's aged, beyond, I don't know.
There is no age statement.
Yeah, and I don't even want to guess. So
see, I don't feel like it has that bite that.
It doesn't. So that's kind of that's why the ranking goes a little bit higher. You can look at the color and tell it's not that old. You can taste it and tell it doesn't have that mature oak wood flavor, but part of that is because of the barrels that it's aged in.
Right.
But at the same time,
some sweetness probably, right?
Right, and that's where you're kind of picking up the fruity flavor, especially with the port barrels. But you're still not getting that just mature whiskey flavor, and you're also not getting that in the ABV either. So to me, like that, and those are things that I
value,
that I value and that I rank higher when they're higher. So that's how it works out for me. I will transport the Angel's Envy Rye. We can do it probably one of our upcoming shows, the next couple shows, just so we have a comparison within real time, and then we'll take it from there.
All right. Well, a little bit of discrepancy in our rankings, but still a very solid whiskey.
No, it's definitely a good whiskey and a pretty cool bottle as well.
Yeah, it's actually a very cool bottle.
It's no lusty claw.
It's no lusty claw in a variety of ways. The bottle's not as cool, and it's not awful.
And the whiskey is 100 times better. What did we rank that? Did we rank that?
I gave it a 79. I think you gave it a 70.
Okay, good.
And I'll tell you what. So I killed off the bottle. I took one for the team.
So irresponsible. You should have used it to clean your guns or something along those lines.
I wouldn't do that to my guns.
Good.
I did it to my liver. Actually, when you did it as a shot, when I did it as a shot,
nope. There's nothing you're going to say in the next 7 seconds that's going to be accurate or true.
Let's just move on.
Okay.
So how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good, man. I went down south, with the family, and it was nice. It was warm, warmer than it was here for most of the time. And I drank a lot of bourbon, and I smoked a few cigars. I smoked a turkey. It was my first time smoking a turkey.
Okay.
And it came out. So we had 2 turkeys. We had a traditionally made turkey in the oven, and then I smoked a turkey, and I was, not to toot my own horn, but I was pretty impressed with the smoked turkey.
Now you didn't bring your smoker down there.
No. But we were able to get our hands on one, and I figured it out, and I was thoroughly, because I never had smoked turkey.
I've never done that.
You just take a turkey and stick it in the smoker. Now that's not all that I did. I used some rosemary and some garlic and a few other Italian style seasonings. Some just real butter, and I used that, and I got that under the skin, and I just massaged it in there, and then melted the butter and poured it in the cavity with some of the other flavor seasonings and things like that, and stuck an apple in the middle, and I'm not sure why I did that, because I combined a bunch of different recipes, and there were all these, so I took a bunch of different ideas, so I cut an apple and stuck it in the middle. Maybe it helped, maybe it didn't. But I mean, the turkey. I will say this: the turkey came out succulent. I was thoroughly impressed. It wasn't quite fall off the bone, but every bite that I had was tender, whether it was dark meat or white meat. So I was pretty amped about it.
Cool.
The only problem is that unless I don't smoke. I don't use my smoker if it's under like 50 degrees. Like
Right.
if the I look at the weather, and it's got to be the high temp of at least 50. Otherwise, I won't bust the smoker out. And living in Northeast Ohio, where I will spend the majority of my Thanksgivings, I probably will not have many opportunities to smoke turkeys. So I don't know. We may have to just do it randomly.
All right. Well,
just buy a turkey
next time exactly. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I took the turkey leg too. I just took it. I felt like a fucking Viking.
Did the Madden? You earned the drumstick.
Maybe I'll smoke a turducken next.
That's true. Yeah, there you go.
That would, with the meat in the meat, that would be an impressive smoking feat. That
would be interesting. I went to West Virginia, which was not warmer than here.
I drove through West Virginia.
Yes, it was a good time with the family. Dinner was good. A little bit of family drama that I won't get into. You know what though? We largely avoided politics.
Good.
And it's funny because that's right. That's the I won't say the fear, but that's what everyone always says is Thanksgiving is when your racist uncle shows up and wants to talk about stuff that makes everyone uncomfortable. None of that.
Good.
No politics at all. My brother and I got along. It was good. I went to a West Virginia basketball game for the first time in probably
WVU.
WVU, yeah.
Nice.
They played Valparaiso and they eventually beat them pretty handily. But
and Valparaiso, they've had an
up and down
team.
Yeah.
They've had some really good teams in many years past, and actually not that far distant past, but not right now.
It was just cool to be in Mountaineer Arena again.
Yeah.
And that the floor is all changed, and we sat way up in the nosebleeds, which I haven't done in years. So that was kind of just a little bit of a trip down memory lane.
At the game?
They do now.
They do now. Okay.
They didn't used to. When I was there, they did not. They do now. Now, I didn't buy any, but I had spent the day drinking with one of my college buddies. So, yeah, I went out with one of my college buddies for lunch and showed up with multiple beers in me, and my family is not a particular drinking family.
Right.
So if I would have showed up with a beer after throwing down 4 or 5 IPAs with my buddy Steve, different Steve.
I understand. I know I wasn't in West Virginia. Trust me.
But it was fun. It was good. Thank God I had a hotel room though.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah, there were times I just had to escape.
Oh, trust me, I understand. We talked at one of those times, but
Yeah.
and the reason,
You kept posting pictures of you with a cigar balancing on a Manhattan, and I was like, "Damn you, Steve!
yeah, I was.
You're taunting me."
I consumed more Manhattans over the week of Thanksgiving than probably I had for the last few months combined. I mean, I
went out and bought vermouth because I was like, "Damn it, I'm having a Manhattan." You drove me
well,
back.
and part of the problem was I got some Luxardo cherries, which make everything
Right.
better, and then I was looking for vermouth, couldn't find it in a couple of stores that I went to. Found it, guy suggested it to me in a wine store. And
Right.
he's like, this is really good vermouth. And I said, you know what? I haven't had it. I couldn't tell you the name of it. It was a very nondescript sort of bottle. But, I mean, it was amazing and made the Manhattans that much better. I actually went through an entire bottle of vermouth.
Damn.
Showed, right. I mean, but it was a small bottle.
Oh, okay. It was a 375.
Right. So,
okay.
right. It was a small bottle. But, I mean, I was drinking probably 4 of them a day, which is really not good for you. But, it's a holiday.
But it's fun. So we missed out. What's funny that Thanksgiving fell on the anniversary of the assassination of JFK.
Yep.
And I'm a big conspiracy nut when it comes to JFK. And if you want me to talk about that, just hit me up on at Whiskey Congress on Twitter or jim@whiskeycongress.com on email, and I will share my myriad of theories with you. But it almost got no notice because of that. I mean, that is like dominates a news story on
It was
its
just the
anniversary.
timing.
Yeah,
Timing this year
absolutely.
with it falling, Thanksgiving, Trump managed to kind of stay in the mix from a political standpoint, and that's where a lot of energy was focused.
Right.
And then you have your normal Thanksgiving traditions with sports and the Macy's parade and everything else that goes with it. So it did not kind of track. And I saw something on it briefly, I think flipping through the channels, and I thought about it. And I know that you're a big JFK assassination,
researcher,
right?
Whatever.
So I mean, we did a show when they released some.
I spent way too many hours drinking Manhattans and scrolling through documents.
Oh
of the
man,
recent
I remember we were constantly refreshing, waiting for when they were going to release them. I forget who it was, the Department of Justice or Library of Congress, or
I think it was Smithsonian. Actually,
yeah, that's what it was. The Smithsonian. That's right. But you were texting me like, "Hey, have you seen anything yet?" I'm like, "No, Jim, I'm doing the same thing you're doing." But anyway,
I definitely took a deeper dive than you because I was between projects at the time, and I was
Right.
literally like, if I smoked cigarettes, there would have been an ashtray full of
sure.
cigarettes. But there was
that was probably the time someone should have introduced you to weed.
true.
I mean, it was
True.
Like you were texting me, and I'm at work, right? I'm at work. I'm doing what I do at work, and you weren't bad
I'm solving
about
a
it.
mystery, Stephen.
Exactly. Like I didn't want to. I was like, you know what? This is his thing, so I will check and I will reply, and it'll be honest, and then I will wait to hear back from him in 45 minutes.
And you probably didn't have to wait that long.
I didn't.
All right, so you mentioned Trump stayed in the news. A lot of stuff stayed in the news about his interactions with, well, not interactions, but the whole Jamal Khashoggi and murder, which I think we now can officially call it that. And he basically just said, not doing shit, fuck it. Now,
Well, just to
Not in those
expand
exact
on
words.
that a little bit, but Trump put out a statement that he essentially doesn't. He understands that it's a bad thing that the guy was murdered, but the relationship that we have with Saudi Arabia is more valuable than just one life. Even though it was a person who is an American citizen as you can be without being an American citizen,
Right.
and that we can't jeopardize our relationship with Saudi Arabia over this particular incident, although Saudi Arabia should know that we don't condone this sort of behavior, and we will figure out a way to give them a slap on the hand for doing so, but we have to move on, and there's a lot of money at stake. What are your thoughts?
I hate to say this. It's pretty well documented how I feel about the current president, but we've ignored atrocities from the Saudis for decades. I don't in any way want to excuse this. I don't in any way want to push this aside, but from the Reagan era, probably from the Nixon or Kennedy era, we have been ignoring atrocities from the Saudis forever because it's been in our economic best interest. So I don't want to give Trump a pass. I don't want to give us a pass. But it's really, this is just a beacon of light on what we've been doing with this country forever.
Well, first, we ignore this. We ignore atrocities with a lot of places.
I think we give them a specifically bigger pass.
Listen, there's plenty of dirt that goes on around the world that we've seen. It's been reported on that our president, our various administrations just have very little to no comment on, and we continue our relationships with various countries on a consistent basis. I mean, we've seen. This isn't the first time we've seen this is the first time we've seen just something so blatant.
Right.
But
a murder. Carried out.
You can go back to as recently as what happened in Egypt with President Obama. You had essentially a coup that he wouldn't call a coup. There were 2 journalists murdered in that particular incident, and our relationship with Egypt remained unchanged because of for financial
reasons, right.
and strategic reasons. So this is not new. Now, what I will say is, listen, President Trump's issue with me, or my issue with President Trump, is always his delivery, right? He doesn't have a tactful, responsible, well thought out, well formed delivery, and he's the leader of the free world, and I think that he should. That being said, what he said is right. It makes sense. Right now,
right.
As it stands
Sadly.
right now, with our relationship with Saudi Arabia and with what's going on in the region, we need them, right? We need them, and we need them to be on our side, because if we lose Saudi Arabia, that whole region goes from being, stable-ish.
No, it goes from bad to worse.
No. It's stable-ish enough right now, but then we lose Saudi Arabia, it's all hell breaks loose, right? And not to say that it's not hell there now, because we have plenty of soldiers that have gone and come back, and they'll tell you that it's hell on earth there now. But what we're seeing now it will only get worse if we lose Saudi Arabia as an ally.
The only thing I'd say is maybe we can't afford to lose Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia sure as fuck can't afford to lose us.
That's true.
Because, I mean, if we just said, fuck
But
it, we're
listen.
done. And again, I'm not saying we should do that. But if we did that, they are more fucked than us. The Saudi royal family, as soon as, if there is anything that ever resembles an uprising in Saudi Arabia, it would make Libya look like a walk in the park, in my opinion. I mean,
I don't disagree with you. I should say I do agree with you that any sort of an uprising in Saudi Arabia is something that the Saudi royal family actually would not be able to handle well, no matter how much money that they have, or what they think that's worth, what they think it buys them, because of some of the things that have gone on there for so long, and the people that have been oppressed, that have been repressed. That will, if they ever turn on them, it'll be a brutal nightmare. And I don't know, and that's one thing. If it did, I would kind of say stay out of it, because there's no way that we could go into that and make anything better.
If you look at our history,
right? I mean, just based on what we know, based on the last 30 years.
Maybe
and longer.
60.
But just on the last 30 years, right? I'm 38 years old, so that's the window that I'm most aware of. Our track record is really, really, really bad in that region, everywhere, but
right.
in that region especially when this sort of shit goes down. So my solution would be stay way the fuck away from it.
Now,
but there's no way that we could actually do that. We would get involved, and it would be a complete disaster, quagmire mess. Afghanistan, not nearly as bad as what Saudi Arabia, what we both believe would be, and we can't get out of that.
I mean, we created the situation in Iran. Again, we did this in the 60s and 70s. But that clusterfuck is going on because of our intervention and our attempt to install a pro-America dictator. It just doesn't. It never goes well.
And part of it, and there's arguments that we have been on the right track, but we've made crucial errors at crucial times that we've hurt ourselves in some of these instances, and there's a lot of. This is not a very simple issue where you just say where you put the little green army men in and then you let them spend some time there and then you pull them out. Like there's a lot that goes into regime change and nation building that we don't necessarily have to get into on the show.
Although in this case, the Crown Prince appears to be the one most directly involved from the Saudi royal family, and I wonder if there's something we could do about him. I know we won't. But if we were just to say...
I don't know. You know what's weird about that? I think for a while, I thought that maybe the Crown Prince was sort of the linchpin to a better Saudi Arabia, right? Just
his relationship with Jared Kushner.
Just there were some things there that said, you know what, maybe he gets it. Maybe he'll be the one to, kind of loosen up.
Sanity.
Yeah, well, just kind of loosen up some of the religion and become more... And make it more democratic, for lack of a better word. Just
more secular.
More secular. Take away some of the religious aspect and look at it from a more, socio-political aspect, and really start to kind of bring them into a new age of ruling. But then he orders someone to be murdered, dismembered, and never to be heard from again, on hotel grounds, to use a term from John Wick, So I don't know. I feel like he is at a crucial point in his leadership, quote unquote. Which direction is he going to go? Is he going to is this a wake up call to him to say, all right, I can't do that. That was my slip up. That was my fuck up. I'm basically getting a pass on it. So does he then, do a 180 from that and say, all right, let's move the country forward, or does he completely unravel and become the Gorbachev of Saudi Arabia and basically destroy the country?
Gorbachev.
Yeah.
Okay. From a practical standpoint, there's not a whole lot we can do on the surface. It happened in Turkey. He's not an American citizen. Khashoggi is not an American citizen. Mm-mm. I mean, maybe Interpol should get involved. Maybe the Turkish government should get involved. What we can't do is say, we don't like what you did. You can't come and play in the States anymore. And I think we should absolutely do that. In fact, Lindsey Graham essentially said that on Meet the Press. He basically just said,
"Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he won't do anything."
Which I would, which would be kind of cool if I could trust Lindsey Graham to repeat that in a month, right? Because he'll immediately, like a month from now, he'll embrace, the Crown Prince with open arms. Like, he's Tommy Toughnuts, last Sunday,
right?
But now I guarantee you, 2 or 3 weeks from now, for whatever reason, his tone will change. So sorry, wishy-washy Lindsey. I'm not taking you for your word on this.
I agree. We'll see where it goes. If BMS is here in 2 months and Lindsey Graham is, sharing a limo with him, I will not be surprised. So this week in Trump has been interesting. I don't want to drag this on too long, but
we already have.
Okay. So Michael Cohen appears to have completely flipped, and Manafort appears to be standing tough. So Manafort was basically told his sentence is going to be...
Did you watch the first season of Daredevil?
No.
No. Okay. Manafort reminds me of the bad guy in Daredevil, Kingpin.
Okay.
And, if you're familiar with comics at all, right? Like, Manafort reminds me of Kingpin, just that, except for he's not, insanely strong and morbidly obese, but, again, insanely strong. But he just seems to have that mob boss, but want to be on the straight and narrow, sort of political guy, but he just can't pull himself away from, the shit that he's got his hands in. on the wrong side of the law. And then once he finally gets busted for it, he goes to jail. He continues that same sort of, that's where he embraces his kind of criminality to a degree and basically says, listen, I'm not telling you shit. You have to figure it out on your own. I'm going to stand tough. And it now feels like Trump is aware of this, right? And is kind of sending out a dog whistle, like just stay the course and we'll get this figured out for you. Maybe a pardon, something along those lines. If you can stand the rain for another 18 months or so, then we'll get you taken care of and we'll get you out of this. That's what it feels like. And where that's coming from is that's coming from Trump.
He basically said that he hasn't ruled out a presidential pardon.
Right. I mean, when the president is saying, I won't rule it out, right? Is that, or could that be construed as a message to Manafort to, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Here's your ticket out of this. You've already been convicted. If you want to be reunited with your ostrich genes and sorry. I feel dreams were just crushed.
Basically said that he lied to Congress and Mueller about a property in Russia that Trump was trying to acquire as late as 2016. And people are, your progressive left, the far left, like people are losing their shit over this as if this is the smoking gun to Russian collusion that everyone had been waiting for, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. No, folks, it's not. Like, one, we knew about this deal. We've known about this for the longest time. Now, Trump sometimes is his own worst enemy, right? Like, because for whatever reason, like, the guy just, he loves to dance around the truth on this shit. And I think part of it is just because he doesn't, I don't know how closely he regards the people who tell him, hey, say this or don't say that, right?
It seems like he doesn't give a shit.
Right, I mean, he basically disregards them, and he's his own man and everything else. But anyone in that position, like, you need other eyes and ears. You need people saying, listen, this is going to play good, this is going to play bad. He doesn't listen to that, so he takes this stuff on his own, and he tries to dance around the truth because he's aware that there could be some issues. But he doesn't want to show weakness and admit to anything, but he knows that if he doesn't want to show weakness by just denying, he kind of wants to own it. He wants it to be out there, but at the same time, he knows that words can be twisted, things can be manipulated. So he's trying to reverse manipulate, and things get twisted. And that sort of shit, those are the sort of things where Mueller may end up being able to catch him, right? With his own public statements, with the information that he puts out there, right? Now, I don't know what Mueller's path is. I don't know what his plan is. I'm not sure how he's building a case, what case he's actually building, what his focus is on. But what I do know is I don't believe, in my heart of hearts, and I've said this before, I don't believe that the Trump administration colluded with Russia to steal the election from Hillary and to create this United States and Russia tag team bad guys versus everybody else. I don't believe that. I don't believe the Russian collusion. I think it, to a degree, I think it was created by the media because of Trump's relationship with Manafort, with Flynn, two people who have been convicted, right, or pled guilty, either convicted of or pled guilty to shady dealings with, Russians or Ukrainians.
Right. I guess when you say that there was no collusion, I agree that it was not done in the manner you described, but I do think that it's clear that at least members of Trump's team worked with Russians to get dirt on Hillary, and whether or not it amounted to anything, I don't know. I mean,
so
I don't think there are going to be any criminal charges against
people
Trump.
do that. I mean, like, so that happens on a political that happens in politics all the time.
Right.
So the question is, if you work with, right, so opposition research happens whenever you, even from the local level all the way up to the president. So are we saying that if the Trump administration received information from people who worked for the Russian government that Hillary was dirty, or that's where they got the emails from, are we saying that this is collusion with the Russian government to throw the election? Is that what we're saying? And now you have to be careful there, right? Now statute of limitations is passed, but this is not new, and this is not something that hasn't happened before, right? I mean, like this
foreign governments working with.
You better not ask me if this is something that's happened before. Absolutely, it's happened before.
Who?
Henry Kissinger flat out said that this is not the first time it's happened, and he can pinpoint time and dates where they've worked with foreign governments in
probably Israel in that case, or,
right?
Okay.
I mean, you know what I mean, and not in now Ted Kennedy, who has since passed, actually has used Russian intelligence on
Nixon against no.
No, now see this is. I caught this is it was like on NPR. It was the most random thing I was listening to. I was driving, and someone had written a book on the number, like the various times, like something like this has happened, where you have opposition research that's either sought, like where we go out and we go to a foreign state and say, hey, give us what you got, or they come knocking on our door and we receive it. And there's back channels and the way this all happens, and it's been going on for the last 50 fucking years. So my whole point is that this is, if we're calling that collusion, then we've been colluding with multiple foreign states for the last 50 years, at least.
All right. Well, it will be an interesting month. I think it'll take another month for the Mueller investigation to actually.
For you to say that is ridiculous. Only because you don't know that.
No, I don't.
I have no idea. What are you basing that off of?
It seems like it's coming to a head. Something just feels like
I don't disagree with that, but there's no fucking way.
Look,
like, this is first of all, I don't believe that it should have, like, I mean, we are we're 2 years into this, right?
Yeah, we're going on there. Okay, all right.
Right, I mean, because he was elected,
which, by the way, is not new in
no,
government
it's not.
investigations.
But, I mean, we are 2
the
years.
Whitewater thing for Clinton lasted how long? It felt like it took forever.
Right, I mean,
and it came down to a blowjob.
Right.
And we've already been one porn star and one Playmate of the Month. So at least Trump's scoring better action in that regard.
Yeah.
Monica Lewinsky versus Stormy Daniels and the Playmate Heather or something.
Either way.
Yeah.
Trump
right.
wins that
one. Let's just move on from Trump. We've done enough of that. And I can't wait to talk about this next thing. Because Gavin Mcinnes, who I fucking loathe,
I know, that's
stepped down from the Proud. Well, he didn't step down. He issued a statement saying he will no longer associate with the Proud Boys. Now, if you don't know who Gavin Mcinnes is, he's kind of tough to describe. I believe he was born in Canada. I don't know what his current citizenship status is, but he formed this group called the Proud Boys, and they've been associated with multiple violent acts. There's a whole bunch of reasons I don't like Gavin Mcinnes. One of them was he did an ad where he talked about how Anthony Bourdain spoke ill of Hillary Clinton and ended up dead. And he said, if I ever ended up, being thought to have committed suicide, just know that the Clintons were behind it. And I just thought that was so shitty, taking advantage of a situation that we've talked about on the show, that it's sad, really sad that Anthony Bourdain took his own life. And I talked about I used to hate the guy, and then he really kind of won me over, and you were a big fan of his. But for him to play the whole, Hillary Clinton is behind the death of Anthony Bourdain was douchey, if I'm being kind. So the Proud Boys had a thing where they would talk about going up and punching people in the face, and I guess a couple of their members were, nine members are currently under indictment and facing trial. So Gavin Mcinnes did a whiny, borderline tearful step down from the Proud Boys, where he claimed that he was never the leader, just the founder. Love that logic. Claimed they were never involved with white nationalism, then claimed there was no such thing as white nationalism, even though there are groups out there that call themselves that. So Gavin Mcinnes can fuck right off, in my opinion.
Well, you can fuck right the fuck off. So the Proud Boys, when they emerged in late 2016, early 2017, were strongly associated with the alt-right. Right, alt-right was started by Richard Spencer. It's a white supremacy movement. They share a conspiracy theory that there's white genocide going on, and that the progressive left and the liberals and the democratic socialists, their whole purpose is to wipe out white people, to fill the United States with brown people, and change the face of America to make it a brown socialist culture that may or may not enslave white people. I don't know. He has tried to distance himself from the alt-right and the white supremacy movement for obvious reasons, especially, the whole distancing from the alt-right began right around the time of the Unite the Right rally, where the woman was killed, Heather Heyer was killed, and Trump had his terrible, press handling where there was, nice people on both sides or whatever he said back then. Right. So, Gavin McInnes, I mean, listen, he's one of those guys. He's one of those. He's
an antagonist, right?
He's an intelligent guy. He's an antagonist. He kind of wants to be a hipster, and he wants to be a tough guy, and he's claiming that that white men are being targeted and are oppressed and on the run. But he is similar to Trump. He saw an avenue where there are groups of white men who do feel like they're being left behind.
Oh my gosh.
Because and this is what's happening. We're paying attention to other groups, right? You guys are no longer the focus, right? You specifically, because you're a white guy, right?
I am a white guy.
You aren't the focus anymore, right? People are focused on women, and they're focused on minorities, and there are women and minorities that are doing great things, and they're making great strides, and they're pulling even, and they're getting to a point where they're even, but they're still not, right? White guys are still dominating, kicking ass, and taking names in every category, right? But if you ask the average white dude in middle America, right, he feels like he is being assaulted and attacked from all angles, while he goes to his job where he makes more money than the same woman who does his job, and the only blackface he sees is a fucking janitor, and you know what I mean? It's hilarious.
The level of victim mentality among white men around my age is shocking.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It's funny because you hear I can't you can't say Merry Christmas anymore. Yeah, you can.
Where?
And do it.
Who's stopping you?
But even
listen. No. What I will say, there are some very, very aggressive, unhinged, progressive far left people who, if you run into one, it, and they're the fringe, right? They're often they're also the loudest, yeah. But you see that a lot with this whole kind of dichotomy that we have going on right now. The people with the loudest voices are the ones that are heard the most and that get the most attention, but that shouldn't be the case. Right? In reality, those are the fringe. Those are the ones on the outside. And while you note what they say, because if their message grows, if their message in their membership grows, then you have to watch that. But at the same time, there's a lot more people in the middle who are kind of tired of both extremes, left or right. That really, those people are the ones who need a voice. And unfortunately, what seems to be happening, though, is that every time a person rises up and they get a platform to use, they push as far left or as far right as they can to gain traction, so that they can get more people on YouTube, or so they can get to Fox News, or so that they can get the attention of the president. And that's where we're having the breakdown. Like, we can't get someone just to say, like, this is kind of, to find that middle ground, right? Middle ground still matters. Middle ground is still important. Compromise. Our country was built on compromise. And so this idea of, the Gavin Mcinneses and the Candace Owens and pick a person.
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, like these, whether they're far right or far left, even Ocasio, whatever. I mean, like, there's no reason she should have been fucking elected in New York. Like, what are you doing? What's her name?
You know what? I
right, but I mean, there's no fucking reason she should have been fucking elected in New York. Why not? She doesn't know her fucking ass from a tea kettle. What are you talking about?
So she'll fit right in Congress.
Okay, I mean, but fine, agree.
Right,
right. But I mean, but that's not. I mean, like, but again, like, she had a certain level of charisma, right? She was very loud, and she checked a certain few number of boxes. But the reality is, what like, some of the things that she's proposed are just like they're not even feasible, right? And if you ask her to explain them or defend, like, she doesn't have any sort of good sort of explanation as to what she wants to do. I want okay, here's the deal. You are a firm believer that we should be able to have universal health care.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
You can put together a semi-decent argument. I mean, I call bullshit and it doesn't work, but you can put that out there. She can't give me your explanation on how we would pay for universal health care. You know what her explanation is?
It'll pay for itself.
No. Her explanation is that the rich people should pay for it because of the amount of money that they make and they haven't paid their fair share of taxes. That's her explanation of it.
Okay, well, I've heard her talk about that. And basically, my stance is this. Right now we have...
Do you believe that she's talked about it in an intelligent manner that actually makes sense and is feasible?
I've only heard a few clips. What I heard, actually, I did think that. Now, I've only listened to like 5 minutes of it. If you bring me down this road, I'm just going to go with the fact that so much of our healthcare cost is wrapped up in administrative things, and if there was a government option, and I think it's hilarious how people think that, the same people who think that the government should run our healthcare, the same people. All right, anyway, go ahead. Do you want to go to this road?
No, there's other shit to talk about.
Yeah, there is. You know what? Let's talk about her next show, and I'll do some research, and we'll see where that goes, because she is becoming the target of the right. I mean, Fox News is just loving
she
her
is,
as a villain.
I mean, now here's the thing, and I'm getting caught up in this. Just to be fair, she's open to doing interviews. She puts herself out there. She will talk. She will, if you want to interview her, she will. She'll get on video, Facebook Live, whatever it is, and she obviously isn't well versed in the actual, like, structure of our government, right? Like, how things work, how things are put together. What happens, what the process is, who goes where, what fits where, which is not the end of the world. She is young, right? She is young. I think she's 28.
I would say 27, yeah, somewhere in that range.
She's 27, 28. Now, some people, well, you should know this in civics class. Okay, fine, right? But if I put you on the spot, if I put a microphone and a camera in front of you, and I start asking you questions like, oh, by the way, this is going to go in front of 1 million people, a lot of people that I know that are much older, much more, mature than her, will stumble and trip and say dumb shit. So let's be fair.
Joe Biden, Donald Trump, George Bush, Barack Obama have all fumbled on.
Right. I mean, Hillary Clinton, the list goes on. So yes. Let's be 100% fair to her in that but the problem is that she continues to do it. And I think at some point in time, you need to kind of cut yourself off and either brush up on certain facts and certain things, or you need to, have some sort of a filter or have someone there to feed you information or whatever it is. But I mean, there's an optics game that needs to be played here. That's part of politics. I don't care whether you're far left or far right. There is an optics game, and it's hard for me, if I'm supporting you, it's hard for me to support you when you put things out there that I can't defend, right? Like you not knowing, the various...
She screwed up something. She butchered a question about, like, the 3 branches of government,
yes.
or something like that.
Right, like she fucked it up, and then she tried to correct it, and she fucked it up again. And so, like, certain things like that, it's like, oh, I really need you to...
I don't think she's that ignorant.
I'm not saying that she is, but you have to be better at your delivery, right? Which is...
right.
What I'm asking her to do is the same thing I'm asking Donald Trump to do. Right? Like I get that you tell it like it is and that you don't hold back and everything, but I just want you to be better at your delivery. You could save yourself so much strife, and it's not going to hurt your agenda, right? I'm not whether I agree with it or not, it's not going to hurt your agenda to deliver the message better. Donald Trump, Alexandria, Ocasio-Cortez, being able to deliver your message in a way that's not going to fucking light the world on fire is not a bad thing. Sorry. Right? I mean, it doesn't necessarily hurt your agenda. And that's where, people are like, oh, you don't like Trump. Like, I don't like the way that he talks. I don't like the way that he tweets. I want him to do it better because he can execute his agenda without being a dick. Right? Like, I'm sorry. I'm just asking him to not be a dick. Don't be so much of a dick. Right, I think you can't help it to a certain degree, right? But just be less of a dick, right? Be a little less of a dick on Twitter and to reporters, and all of a sudden we have half the issues that we've had.
Yeah, don't be a dick should not be necessarily the bar that gets set, but
I don't necessarily disagree. But sometimes I feel like, what my job could be at the White House? I could have 2 signs on my hands. Be a dick, don't be a dick. And I could stand in front of the president when he's giving a speech, right? And I know what's coming up. And then I would put the don't be a dick hand signed up, right? I put that up, right? And I would save him some trouble, right? And then he gets to something somewhat innocuous. I could say, you can be a dick, right? And then pull it back, right? And that would be my job. Don't be a dick, be a dick. Don't be a dick, be a dick.
I wonder, what would that job be called?
The director
of dickishness?
No.
Secretary of dickishness?
The secretary of presidential socio-political interaction.
I think Secretary of Dickishness would work better. All right. Do you know who Gary Hart is? Do you know that name? There's a movie coming out about him.
Is he a wrestler?
No, he was...
his brother, Bret Hart?
His brother was not Bret Hart. He was a...
He's stupid, then.
He was considered the front runner for the Democratic nomination in probably 88, maybe? And he was accused of having an affair with a woman named Donna Rice, who was like a model. And just the accusation of an affair derailed this guy. And I look at how far things have changed. We now have essentially 100% certainty that the presidential candidate fucked a porn star, and that doesn't... a thrice married presidential candidate fucked a porn star while his wife was pregnant, and that doesn't derail you. And Gary Hart was literally accused of an affair and done. So we have changed the standards so dramatically. The movie's coming out. It's called The Front Runner.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. But then there was Kennedy, right?
But no one... All right, I mean,
Kennedy was a boy.
Presidents have been fucking around forever. FDR had a mistress.
Yeah,
this is not even, debated anymore.
No, FDR had a mistress who was there with him when he was dying. And when his wife came, the mistress was there... Eleanor Roosevelt, she came to see him and was like, oh, your mistress is here. Cool. All right. Well, good luck with this whole thing. And I'm going to go back to my, things that I'm doing. And that's awful. Now, there was also some things about Eleanor Roosevelt that were out there that she had a lady friend of a certain
persuasion, yes.
Right, but I mean, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's
just so funny how
presidents are people too.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I mean, I defended Bill Clinton through the Lewinsky thing, and I will continue to do so. I don't care who the president fucks, and I'll roll that over into Trump. Now, it's a little grosser with him because he's a gross human being, but.
Why?
Why
it's
do you mean
not,
why?
It's
He's
not
gross.
any grosser. I don't care. I honestly don't care. I don't.
All right.
Like, I'm sorry.
You know what?
Like, 'cause remember, when Bill Clinton was getting blowjobs from Monica Lewinsky, he was fat.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, so, I mean, if you're saying it's because his physical, the way he is physical, then, okay, whatever.
I'm going on a path that does no good, so I'm going to bail on that. And
Good.
let's talk about some local stuff. So 2 big things happened locally this week that I want to talk about. The Lordstown GM plant is potentially being closed.
GM is shutting down. It's not potential. It's being shut down in March.
And now that's your neck of the woods. That's
Right,
Youngstown.
that's where my
your dad used to work there.
Yeah, my dad worked at Lordstown, the GM plant there for years, for over a decade, and then recently got moved out to Seattle. Or I'm sorry,
Seattle.
What
Jesus.
the fuck?
Where's your dad? You don't know
Sorry,
where your dad
St.
is.
Louis. St. Louis.
Similar.
I don't know where that came from.
This is the Angels envy effect.
Yeah, seriously. No, my dad got moved to St. Louis. The plant there, they produce the small to mid-sized trucks, the Canyons and the Colorados and things like that. And the original plan was for him to go back to Lordstown for a certain role, but he needed experience in that role, and so they gave it to him in St. Louis. And then a couple things happened, and I think so. I don't know. A couple of months ago, either a month or 2 months ago, my dad got this promotion at this plant that he was only supposed to be at for a certain amount of time. And I thought it was odd, right? Like, my dad emails like, "Hey, son, this is what happened." And it was, I mean, it's great news. It's a great position for my father, more money, the whole thing. But I thought it was odd. I'm like, well, you're only supposed to be there temporarily, so that's weird. And then this comes down the pike that they're going to close the Lordstown plant. It's not supposedly, like, this is happening. It's closing in March.
All right.
And so it doesn't impact my family directly. I do have friends that will be losing their job. Some are prepared for it. It seems like the writing has been on the wall for a while. And others that are not quite as prepared. And it's going to be a devastating blow to the area. I mean, you're going to lose
1,800 jobs or
something?
something?
I mean, you're losing thousands of jobs, and we've seen this in the area before. We've seen what happens when major employers leave an area like Youngstown. It's not good. The crime rate's going to go up. All your major mortality and health statistics are going to drop. There's going to be drugs. There's going to be, just unrest, and it's not going to be good. Now, I'm basing this off of past experience, and could something pop up that fills the void? Sure. They're hoping that it's steel. There are a number of steel mills in Youngstown that can be brought back online relatively quickly. So the hope is that because of the tariffs on foreign steel coming into the U.S., that maybe we can quickly get some steel mills online in the Youngstown area and get people back to work. Maybe. But the reality is you're only going to have so many people that are going to be willing to work in a steel mill, working in a car. In an automotive plant is much different than working in a steel mill. The steel mill is a lot harder. It's a lot more taxing on you physically, even with the technological advances. And frankly, some of these steel mills don't have a lot of those technological advances. So there are people that are just not going to be willing to do that work. And the other issue is that you're not going to have people qualified. I mean, you're just where we're at right now. Right. You're going to have a lot of people that aren't going to pass the drug test. Start there. And then, go on down the line. So this is going to be devastating to the area my hometown.
Right.
It's really unfortunate. It's, part of the reason why I never moved back was just because there were so few opportunities there for a person like me on so many different levels for so many different reasons that it just, I guarantee you I would be on a much worse track had I moved home. So
when something like this happens, especially in a town the size of Youngstown, the ripple effect is devastating because
they're saying only 1,800 jobs, or
that's
but
1,800 families that aren't going to be ordering pizzas, that aren't going to be using dry cleaners, that aren't going to be.
It's 1,800 jobs. Those are the Lordstown jobs,
right?
But there are a number. There's probably 15 to 20 other feeder companies in and around the Lordstown, Youngstown, Warren area that do various things for that plant that are no longer going to be able to do that, and they will try their damnedest to be able to try to fill that void, but eventually they're going to fold. Right. They're going to collapse, right?
Someone provides uniform services for that plant.
Yeah,
they're not going to have that anymore. There's other,
there's other random things, like the people who do the upholstery for certain seat covers, and the people who provide the clamps for this or the seals for that. Like all of a sudden, like their main. Their main vendor, their main client or whatever is now gone. Is going to be gone, and they will fight to hold on, because the one thing we've seen is that this has happened with Lordstown in the past, and they've been able to retool the plant and put another vehicle in there that they make. Right now, they make the Chevy Cruze,
right?
And the Cruze is just not a popular car, partially because it's a terrible car, but.
I've never been in one, so I don't know about
my mother owned one. Obviously, my father worked for GM, and so my mother owned one for basically 7 cents a month. And it was small. It had no horsepower. I used it like a roller skate. That's essentially how that car worked. Like, that's how small it is. I'm a very wide person, and it was a nightmare for me. But they made the Chevy Cruze there. The market for that car is gone because oil prices are low and gas prices are low. People are saying, all right, you know what? Then I can afford to drive a bigger car with a bigger engine that has better performance. And people aren't as worried about, miles per gallon and all that other shit. So, cars like the Chevy Cruze just don't, and it's been this way for a while now. In a car company is a business. It's a bottom line business. And, 12 months of not being able to sell a certain type of car, you got to make a decision, right? And so really, as it relates to us, from a political standpoint, this really isn't about Trump and what he promised and all this other stuff. This is about this is about capitalism. This is how it works. There's no demand for what they make. Right now, whether Trump promised that all these jobs would stay in China and tariffs, okay, we could have that guy. Okay, fine, whatever. But at the end of the day, people like big cars. I will always drive a fucking truck. Just is what it is. I like my trucks big. I like 4-wheel drive. I like being able to run over shit. I like to be able to drive in the winter. I like having plenty of room. I like being able to throw random shit in the back of my truck. I like trucks. I like Dodge trucks. I like Dodge Ram 1500s. That's what I like. That's what I'm going to drive. Now, you jack gas prices up to $5 a gallon, and I will reconsider that, right? But as long as I can afford to do it, right, which as long as gas is less than,
$2.50 a gallon,
$3.85 a gallon, I think that's where I would have to get serious about making a change. I'm going to drive a truck, and there's a lot of people who think like me. So that's Lordstown's biggest problem. So can they find something to put in that plant that people want to drive?
That plant is so massive.
Oh, it's massive.
I drive by it every time I go.
Dude, so this here, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I've been doing that a lot today, and I apologize.
It's fine.
When my dad worked at that plant, he would text me, like the amount of ground that he covered, just walking.
All right.
To and from. My dad averaged 5 miles a day walking in that plant. Just walking. Just in that plant.
I believe it.
He didn't start. He didn't start tracking it. No, think about how it's like if you're a distance runner, you're like, oh, 5 miles a day, I run that and blah blah blah. All right, yeah, fine, whatever, good for you, asshole. But good for you, outdoor runner. But I mean,
I love when you argue with people who aren't here
that don't even exist. I don't, because I'm sure there's no one arguing with me right now at all. But the point that I'm saying is that walking indoors in the place that you work and you cover 5 miles in that amount of time, it's just fucking insane to me. You know,
I'm trying to think. I did the step monitoring thing once. You know, where my cell phone would track my steps, and they were supposed to do 10,000 steps a day, or whatever the fuck that was.
How many? Or how far is that? What is that?
That's what I was trying to figure. I think that's like 3 miles.
Oh, is it really?
But anyway, we should wrap this up, but we got to talk a little local sports stuff because it's been a fun week with local sports. So the Cleveland Browns don't suck like they used to. You were a big proponent of Baker Mayfield being the first overall pick.
10,000 steps equals 5 miles.
Oh, Almost. 5 miles. Okay.
There you go.
All right, there we go. But your dad was doing that just at work, not over the course of his day. So anyway, the Browns won this week. They beat the Bengals. Baker Mayfield, you were a huge supporter of him being the first overall pick. Your logic, I think, has been pretty soundly backed up. I mean, of the rookie quarterbacks that got drafted this year, it's undeniable that he's been the best.
Yes.
And so after the game, he and Hue Jackson.
Well, hold on. Let's back up even further.
Right.
So Hue Jackson got fired a couple weeks ago, right? He was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. He gets fired because his record was like 3-36-1, right?
I think it was worse than that, actually.
Which is terrible, right? I mean, he had a 1-16 season. He had an 0-16.
1-15, 0-16.
1-15, 0-16, and then they had won 2 games with him, but they had lost however many before he got fired.
I think it was 3-40 was his record when he was fired.
And he got it was still in the 30s when he got fired. He got fired, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. From the Browns, and he came from the Cincinnati Bengals. He did like a 2-week media tour where he basically said, hey, you know what? The Browns was a bad situation. It wasn't my fault. Ownership, previous regime, blah, 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 blah. But, I'm on the market. I'm ready for business. He ends up back in Cincinnati as some sort of a consultant with the Bengals, who the Browns are in the same division, so that means they play each other twice a year, every year. The Browns are, just played the Bengals this past week, so Hue Jackson was there in time to say, all right, this is everything I know about the Browns since I was their head coach, and I'm gonna help you guys with that, right? Browns go into Cincinnati and completely dust them.
Yeah.
Right. Like they in NFL terms, like they just literally they smoked them. And after the game, Hue Jackson, the former head coach, goes up to Baker Mayfield, the new rookie quarterback who has just beat his brakes off, and goes in for a hug. And Baker just does the handshake, says, "Nah, we're good," and walks away. Right. Baker gets asked about it after the fact in the press conference, and he says, "Listen, the guy was the head coach here. He asked us to play for him, and then he gets fired and ends up at a team 2 weeks later that we play twice a year every year. Sorry, I'm the quarterback of this team. I'm the leader of this team. I'm not down for that. Screw him. I'm done with him." Right? Like, he gets a handshake, not a hug. We're not bros. We're not friends. Like he's on the other side now. That's our relationship. And that's how it went down. Now, that interaction between what happened to them on the field and Baker's response blew up ESPN, Fox Sports. I mean, everybody from Skip Bayless to Stephen A. Smith to Shannon Sharp, Will Kane,
Booger
McFarland. Everybody had, even here locally, it was a huge thing. They were still talking about it today. Will Kane from ESPN was on the local ESPN 850 show talking about the exchange, and a lot of it ended up coming back to race. Right?
Really?
Yeah, a lot of it came back to race. A lot of the beef between Will Kane and Damian Woody and Booger McFarland. A lot of the undertones there was, you've got this privileged white kid telling this black coach that, he can't go earn a living to go feed his family. Like that was the conversation that was being had on several platforms about this.
I didn't hear that. I'd like to respond to that if you want me to
go ahead.
All right, so Hue Jackson was getting paid, I think, $4 million a year, and I think he gets that for 2 more years. So I'm not saying I have no problem with what Hue Jackson did in taking that job. None. I don't think Baker Mayfield handled it in the classiest way, but Baker Mayfield is kind of that guy. I mean, he's a brash, young, in-your-face kind of guy. He's super, super competitive, obviously. So I don't really think Baker Mayfield handled it the smartest or classiest way possible, but I really don't have a problem with what he did. But the idea that a black coach is being denied the opportunity to feed his family, dude's making $4 million a year next year and the year after that.
So let's just get into this. Like the reality is, Hue Jackson's not oppressed. Right? Like, Hue Jackson's not being denied the right to work. Baker Mayfield, like, get off that. Right? Like, I mean, here's the deal. Hue Jackson was a shitty coach. Right? Hue Jackson probably sold Baker Mayfield a bunch of bullshit. Right? I mean,
we even saw the inside of that because we saw them on that HBO show. What's that called?
Right, like Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks, thank you.
Hue Jackson is the guy who wins the media press conference every time, right? Like that's who he is. But if you're going to win press conferences, then you better win games. Hugh didn't win games. And we have, like, listen, it's a bottom line business. Hugh didn't win games, right? And the Browns have gotten better as Hugh has not been there, right? Like, so Hugh is not a good head football coach based off of the information and the data, hard data, that we have. Right? Now, Hugh was then able to parlay that shitty record that's historically bad. He was able to parlay that into a job in Cincinnati. Right? Like, so I'm not exactly sure where all this oppression or, Hugh's inability to feed his family, I'm not sure where that is kicking in. Right? And that part of the reason Hugh took the job with the Bengals, the way he did, is he's like the special assistant to the head coach. Meaning that he's probably not getting paid anything. And if he is, it's a menial salary. And the Browns are still paying Hue Jackson. So technically, the Browns are paying Hue Jackson to coach a team that they play in their division twice a year. Right? So Hue Jackson is fine. I don't give a shit about this whole theory about Hue Jackson needs to feed his family. Right? Because whether Hue Jackson worked for the Bengals or went at home and watched weird midget porn for the next 2 fucking years, Hue Jackson was going to be able to feed his goddamn family because he was getting $4 million from the Browns, whether he was doing midget porn at home or being the special assistant to Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati. Hue Jackson is fucking fine, right? And Baker Mayfield is that guy. Right? That's the reason why they drafted him, because he's a little red-ass asshole. Right? He's like, fuck you, Hugh. You left to go to the fucking Bengals?
He didn't leave, he got fired.
All right, you got fired, and then your option is to go to the Bengals, who's our rival, who beat your ass while you were here? And so you're going to go to them? Right? After you sold us this whole bill of goods that we were going to win these games and that we were all in this together, and now you're with the enemy? Fuck you. Don't hug me. I don't want to talk to you. Get the fuck out of here. That's the leader. That's who I want. That's who I want to be my fucking quarterback. That's who I need to lead my team out of 1-15 and 0-16. I need a red-ass, angry son of a bitch. And that's who Baker Mayfield is. He is doing what he should do as the leader of this team that's been in the fucking doldrums for the last 20 fucking years. Right? Like, you need a guy like that. When's the last time you looked at a Browns quarterback and said, oh, this guy. Right? Like, one, he's doing it on the field. Right? Yeah. I mean, as a rookie,
if you don't do that, then shut the fuck up.
Right? Like, he's doing it on the field. He's winning games. He's had the highest quarterback rating for a rookie ever. right? And he's had the highest quarterback rating for rookie in two weeks in a row, right? Which has never been. You've never had a rookie quarterback that's had a QB rating higher than 140 in consecutive weeks ever in the history of the NFL. He's done it 2 weeks in a row, and he's on pace to do it a third time, right? Like, so he's proving it on the field, and then he's backing it up, and he's basically saying to everybody in that locker room that he plays with, he's saying, hey, you guys, get behind me, follow me. If you're with me, you're with me. If you're against me, Hue Jackson, right? I don't care that you were on this ship, but you're off of it now. So now you're against me. I have no love for you. Go fuck yourself. And that's what you want your leader to be. And this whole idea that he needs to acquiesce to Hugh, and he needs to be nice to Hugh, and he needs to be more diplomatic, and he didn't say it the right way. Go fuck yourself. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know how to win a football game, and you don't know how to lead a team. If that's your opinion, that he should have been more respectful of Hugh, Hugh should have been more respectful to Cleveland and won a goddamn football game. How about that?
He won a football game.
What? He should have won more. He won a football game. Right? Like, I mean, but that's what I'm saying.
Hold on, but let's be fair to Hue Jackson for a second.
Hold on. He should have been fair to Cleveland and been a better coach.
He was in a situation where they were not trying to win his first year. Secondly, I have no problem with Hue Jackson taking whatever job they would throw his way.
I don't either.
Okay. Because
guess what? But for every action, there's a reaction. And could he have taken a job with other teams? I don't know. Maybe.
Probably not.
Maybe not. Right? Because you were a terrible fucking coach. So
you were 1-31.
Right. So you went to home base where you were comfortable, where they would accept you, and there was a reaction. And this is the reaction: is that we don't want to fucking deal with you. And oh, by the way, the most disrespectful thing that happened to Hugh was not Baker Mayfield not giving him a hug or saying that he didn't like what Hugh did. The most disrespectful thing to Hugh was when Demarius Randall got an interception and then listen, Demarius Randall could have ran the ball down the sideline, scored a touchdown, and he took the ball and handed it to Hugh. He ran out of bounds and handed it to Hugh Jackson, right? He could have scored a touchdown, and he stopped and was like, here you go.
Honest to God, I thought that was pretty disrespectful.
That was the most disrespectful, and let me tell you, that may be the highlight of the Browns over the last 20 fucking years. And if you ask me from 5 years from now, if the Browns are good and they're in the playoffs and Baker Mayfield is all-world quarterback and they're going to the Super Bowl, and you say, Steve, what was the turning point for the Browns? I will say when Demarius Randall intercepted the ball and could have scored a touchdown, and he stopped, ran out of bounds, and handed the ball to Hue Jackson, that is when the Browns became a contender.
I did not know that he could have taken it
further.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was listening to the Bills game driving back from West Virginia.
Well, I was actually driving back from South Carolina, but when I went back and actually watched it, now, friendly reminder, I'm a Steeler fan, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is funny to watch you so passionate about the Browns.
Well, you know what? Because I love this city. I love the city of Cleveland.
Me too.
And
it's not my hometown either. I'm a Buffalo guy. We know
right,
this.
And I'm a Youngstown guy. But I think it's important that, like, listen, sports is very important to me, and I think it's important that our sports teams are good because of the positive.
You can tell the difference in this town,
right?
Now, can't you?
Right? Like, I mean, it's huge. I mean, just because the Browns, with the Cavs stinking, right, and with the Browns going through a malaise for the first part of the season, it was like, oh my god. But then the Browns win. They win a couple games. They win that game against the Jets, and they win another game, and then they kind of start stinking. Now all of a sudden they're winning again. Like, this town is a different town. There's a different vibe. It's a different feel. I love living in it. I love experiencing in it, and so I'll defend it. Right? Like, my best friend is works for the Browns and has a key role with that organization. I'm the godfather to his son, and I told him, listen, as long as you work there, and as long as we live here, right? Whichever ends first or never ends or whatever, I will always cheer for the Browns to go 14-2, as long as those 2 losses are against the Steelers.
Right.
No, so that's.
No, I respect that. All right, can we stay on sports for one more? We're pretty much, we're well over time. I'm getting that same thing from Buffalo, because the Buffalo Sabres don't suck for the first time in a decade. They've won 10 straight games. They're going for 11 tonight. I'm actually going to leave here and go watch hockey with some Sabres fans. And the Sabres have been the Browns of, I call them the Browns on ice, like last year. They've been that awful. If they win tonight, they will win their 11th straight game and set a franchise record with a bunch of kids who are too dumb to know better than the fact that they shouldn't be doing this well. And I've been listening to Buffalo Sports Talk Radio, as I always do. And the reason it is not super negative, and the reason we're not listening to, fire everybody and this is horrible, is because they have been on fire. And the Bills are basically riding their coattails for a change. And there was a really funny moment. You know who Tre'Davious White is, right?
Yeah.
So he's a cornerback for the Bills. He's a really, really good. Is this his third year or second year? I think
This is third year.
Third year. That's right. And no, second. Second, because he was the pick we traded. Pat Mahomes got drafted by Kansas City, and we ended up with him. So he he was doing a dance behind a referee. The referee was explaining that a fumble was not a fumble, and the Bills didn't have the ball. And Trey White was doing a dance behind him and pointing as if the ball should be Buffalo's. And last game, defenseman from Buffalo.
Right, this is second year. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. So last week, a couple days ago, defenseman from Buffalo, Rasmus Dahlin, scored a phenomenal goal and did the most awkward post-goal celebration. And Trey White reached out to him on Twitter to teach him how to do better celebrations.
Hey, listen, each one teach one.
Yeah,
You got to reach out. You got to help your brother.
Fair.
You got to reach out.
And Rasmus Dahlin it wasn't Dahlin, it was Rasmus Ristolainen. We have two Swedish defensemen whose first name is Rasmus.
Interesting.
Yes. All right. Let's shut this down before I get rolling too much on hockey, unless you have something more you want to say. We're good?
Yeah.
Steve, good talking to you, man.
Yeah, good talk. Hey, listen, hopefully you're still listening. I know we went over our normal hour, 10 minutes. But coming up on our next episode, we have Kevin Dixie of No Other Choice Firearms Training. He's a Second Amendment advocate. He's a gun guy. He's got ties to the NRA. He's an African American. He's from St. Louis, and I think it'll be a really interesting talk. So please make sure you jump in for that and see where that goes. I think it'll be a good talk.
Check out his name. What was his name again?
It's Kevin Dixie. It's
check out on Instagram.
Hold on. I'll give you his exact thing.
While you're doing that, I will say we are at Whiskey Congress on all social media. We are Jim at whiskeycongress.com, Steve at whiskeycongress.com. If you want to email us. We've gotten some great numbers lately and a lot of feedback, and we really appreciate that. And you have the info?
Yeah, so it's NOC Firearms Training, which is short for No Other Choice Firearms Training. That's Kevin Dixie's Instagram, so check that out. And then make sure you check us out and see what our conversation with him is all about next week.
Angels Envy Whiskey, I think, is pretty damn good. I enjoy the conversation. Mm-hmm. All right, later, brother. We're out.